This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
Our correspondent in Iraq said that between 20 and 40 Iraqis were kidnapped in the Sinag area in central Baghdad. The kidnapping was carried out by unidentified men in Iraqi police uniform. The following report gives a list of security breaches in Iraq.
The phenomenon of daytime mass kidnappings in central Baghdad has become one of the most dangerous phenomena and is now being considered the greatest security threat. For the second time in 2 months after the kidnapping of employees at the Higher Education Scholarship Administration, another kidnapping took place in the crowded Sinag shopping area located in central Baghdad. Armed groups wearing police uniforms and driving official cars kidnapped more than 20 civilian shop owners who sell spare parts, taking them to an unknown destination. Another security breach, which became even more dangerous today, was this morning's armed attack on the motorcade of the Iraqi Vice President Adel Abdel Mahdi. The Iraqi Vice President survived the attack after one of his assistants called for backup from the U.S. and Iraqi security forces. The explosion of cars also resulted in the killing of many Iraqis, including an explosives expert and his assistant. The two died from an explosion while trying to disarm a booby-trapped car in Sadr city, east of the capital. In a similar incident in Kirkuk in northern Iraq, another expert in the Iraqi police force was killed and at least 5 others were wounded. A third booby-trapped car, which was being driven by a suicide bomber, targeted an Iraqi army checkpoint in the Jama'iyya neighborhood in western Baghdad, killing 1 soldier and severely wounding 9 civilians. The discovery of unidentified bodies has become almost a daily event. In a town south of Baghdad, the Iraqi police said that it found 2 unidentified bodies showing signs of torture and gunshot wounds. In the city of Mosul in the north, the police announced that it found 5 unidentified bodies showing signs of torture and gunshot wounds.
2 people were inside a car in central Baghdad. When the car passed, it exploded. The 2 of them were martyred.
In this way, the cycle of daily violence continues until the day comes when people can talk about a new, secure Iraq. Hadiya Rubai, Al-Arabiya.
الاحتلال الأمريكي بقصف منزلين كان أهلها يستعدون لمراسم زفاف.
The American occupation shelled 2 homes as the families inside were preparing for a wedding, causing massive damages to the 2 homes and injuring many civilians. 2 civilian cars were burned in the attack.
وسط مدينة كربلاء صباح السبت بحياة 8 ضحايا من المدنيين وإصابة نحو 20 آخرين بجروح.
Iraq witnessed yet another day of horrific events where people were killed and families were devastated. Iraqis have been long waiting for a day free of random killing. The killing does not discriminate between any of the country's young men and women, who all have the burden of building the future of this country on their shoulders. 25 recently made mortar shells hit safe homes in Al-Ghazaliyah, western Baghdad, killing 1 person and injuring others. 3 homes sustained huge material losses as well. The city of Al-Qadimiyya, north of Baghdad, was also subjected to mortar shell attacks, which killed 2 civilians and injured 3 others. Mortar shells, which were launched from an unknown source, hit residential homes in Al-Muhit street, causing material damages. Also, the city of Ramadi witnessed acts of violence that targeted innocent people. The occupation forces conducted a barbaric raid of 2 homes of families that were preparing for a wedding. The homes were all of a sudden shelled by tanks, causing huge damages, injuring many innocent people in the process. During the raid, 2 civilian cars were burned and money was stolen from the Iraqi family.
وسقوط العديد من الأبرياء بإصابات مختلفة. المداهمة أدت إلى حرق سيارتين مدنيتين وسرقة أموال نقدية.
The Americans came, they entered our home without any justification. They destroyed our home, the furniture, and attacked the women. They even burned the cars and took our jewelry with them. We were just about to have a wedding. We just showed you the groom's suite.
مدينة كربلاء بجنوب العاصمة بغداد كانت على موعد اليوم.
A booby-trapped car exploded in the city of Karbala in southern Baghdad. The car exploded in the Al-Abbas street, peace be upon him, killing 8 people and injuring 44 others. A number of commercial stores near the explosion were damaged.
وتضرر عدد من المحال التجارية القريبة من موقع الانفجار.
The driver of a car with a government license plate said that he would be back in a minute. A few seconds later, the car exploded.
Iraqis are witnessing bloody events caused by explosive devices, booby-trapped cars, and the occupation soldiers who are spreading havoc in the land of the 2 rivers. Their crimes include this ugly scene in the Mahmoudiyya and Jadida in the Ishaqi area. These are some of the crimes in this wounded country.
هذا وقد أعطت المحكمة الإسرائيلية العليا الضوء الأخضر للجيش الإسرائيلي للمضي قدما.
The Israeli Supreme Court gave the green light to the Israeli army to continue with the policy of targeted killing against Palestinian activists. This decision came in response to a lawsuit that was filed 4 years ago by an Israeli human rights organization. The court said that some of the targeted killings did not violate international law. However, it called for avoiding civilian targets by making the targeted killing more precise.
للشخصية المستهدفة.
This scene was the result of an Israeli raid in July 22, 2002. The target was Salah Shahada, a prominent Hamas leader. He was not the only martyr. At least 16 civilians were also martyred, including women and 11 children. This was an indiscriminate attack against military and civilian targets, but the Israeli Supreme Court had a different opinion. It released a first-of-a-kind of a court ruling legitimizing the so-called targeted killing of Palestinian activists. The decision came in response to a lawsuit filed at the Israeli Supreme Court by an Israeli human rights organization that demanded the banning of targeted killing. The Israeli court's decision came a little late, but it gave an unprecedented legitimacy to the Israeli practices that clearly violate the Geneva Convention, which called for the protection of civilians in time of war. Article 3 of the Geneva Convention bans the occupation forces from attacking civilians or jeopardizing their security. According to Israeli human rights organizations, 300 Palestinians were killed due to Israeli targeted killing since the beginning of the Second Intifada. The 300 figure includes 130 civilians who happen to be near the intended targets. However, Palestinians believe that this number is only the tip of the iceberg. According to Palestinian estimates, more than 4,000 Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza were killed during that same period of time, including 800 children who were killed by Israeli military operations and by shelling by planes and tanks. Some of the targeted killings also claimed the lives of political leaders who were disabled. Others killed civilians and decimated entire families, like what happened during the Israeli incursion of Beit Hanun. The Israeli targeted killing policy was not only used in Palestinian areas, it was also used in neighboring countries to assassinate Palestinian leaders. The Israeli Supreme Court did not consider this in violation of international treaties or the sovereignty of these countries.
Israel violates one of the most fundamental human rights of Palestinian prisoners. It does not allow them conjugal visits, which are a prisoner's right in many other countries. Some Palestinian prisoners with long sentences who wish to have children have smuggled sperm samples outside the prison for artificial insemination. Will society allow this? Abdul Hafiz Jawan has the details.
10,000 Palestinian prisoners languish under the injustice and oppression of Israeli prisons. The public may think their problem is the freedom that was taken away from them, but on the prisoners' minds are also other concerns. They have human dreams that we don't see. The most important among them is becoming fathers. To fulfill this wish, some prisoners use complicated procedures to smuggle sperm samples outside the prison for artificial insemination. The samples were sent to doctors at a fertility treatment center.
A prisoner called me and told me he wanted to send a sperm sample. He is educated and understands the procedure. He wants to use it with his wife for artificial insemination. He was sentenced for life. This is the first time I'd heard of a request like this, so I was hesitant in the beginning. I wanted to make sure it was permissible in our religion.
Artificial insemination is permitted under Islamic law, provided it is done for a married couple. The procedure has benefited the lives of many people. So why are there obstacles for the Palestinian prisoners? What is the opinion of the religious authorities on this matter?
This procedure is permissible because a woman has a right to have children, and so does her husband. If there is a barrier preventing the husband and wife from being with each other, then this procedure may be necessary. But as I said, it must be done under medical supervision and must abide by religious law, which stipulates that it can only be for a married couple.
The more difficult obstacle that prevents the Palestinian prisoner's dream from being fulfilled is Palestinian society itself. The society does not accept that a wife should become pregnant while her husband is in prison.
Let's assume there is a woman whose husband has been incarcerated for 5 or 10 years. All of a sudden, people see that she's pregnant. This can be a problem. She will need to make it publicly known that it is legitimate.
The story is complicated and the factors involved are intricate. Religion permits artificial insemination, but society is reluctant to allow it in the case of prisoners. Therefore, there needs to be an intermediary that represents social and religious organizations to confer this right to the prisoners in their confinement. Until Palestinian society is convinced that a man's desire to become a father is as strong as his desire for freedom, their children will remain frozen cells and their dreams will remain illusions. Abdel Hafiz Jawan, Al Arabiya, the Palestinian territories.
Damascus qualified the UN Brahmats report on Rafiq Hariri's murder as professional in principle. According to Syrian ambassador to the UN, Bashar Ja'fari, the document is just a report on the phases of the commission and has yet to reach any binding political conclusions. Ja'fari stressed that his country cooperated in a satisfactory manner with the investigation. Serge Bramers, the head of the commission probing the murder, confirmed that Damascus's cooperation is satisfactory. Bramers published his 6th report on the Commission's progress this week. For its part, France hoped Syria would cooperate with the developing steps of the UN inquiry by backing the tribunal of an international character. France's foreign ministry said that the latest Bremer's report confirms significant links between the various explosions and assassinations in Lebanon since October 2004. France said it was still examining a new demand called upon by President Mosaic for the extradition of a key witness in the Hariri case, Mohammed Zuhair Siddiq, who is currently living in France. The issue has finally reached the peak of the pyramid, but words still need to be put into actions. U.S. President George W. Bush has urged Syria to free all political prisoners and disclose the fate and whereabouts of many Lebanese who disappeared following their arrest in Lebanon during 3 decades of Syrian military occupation. Bush, in a written statement released by the White House on Wednesday, also called on Syria to halt intimidation and interference that is hurting Lebanon's embattled democracy. Bush added that he was deeply troubled by reports that some ailing political prisoners had denied health care while others are held in cells with violent criminals. He finally expressed the United States supports the Syrian people's desire for democracy, human rights, and freedom of expression. Bush added Syrians deserved a government whose legitimacy is grounded in the consent of the people, not brute force. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, meanwhile, called on world powers not to intervene in Lebanon, saying the Lebanese can resolve their own problems. As he spoke during a meeting yesterday with U.S. Senator Bill Nelson, a member of the Foreign Relations and Armed Services Committees, who was in Damascus on a one-day visit before heading to Jordan. Nelson is the first U.S. lawmaker to visit Syria since January 2005 and comes only days after a top-level U.S. panel called on President Bush to begin talking with both Syria and Iran about the Iraqi situation and border regional issues. The Syrian state-run news agency Sana reported that both men considered it important to activate a dialogue and set up mechanisms for bilateral cooperation. Assad called on the international community to make all efforts with countries in the region to achieve security and stability in the Middle East. Preparations to protect against winter rains are ongoing in the Riyadh al-Salah and Martyrs Squares, where the sit-in will continue in order to express opposition to the status quo.
This big workshop was created to erect huge metal tents to protect people against anticipated rains. The scene characterized the 13th day of the sit-in being held by the Lebanese opposition in the Riyadh al-Sul and Martyrs Squares. Necessary measures were taken to deal with the rain, such as covering the tents with nylon sheets and raising up mattresses and blankets onto wooden pallets or stone bricks. These people here, who are in charge of this national and unifying sit-in, took advantage of the light pedestrian traffic before the afternoon to successfully set up a large number of tents on the only empty space left in front of the main speaker's stage in Riyadh al-Sul Square. One of this sit-in's activities for youth included a tent that was put up to allow people to paint and draw inside. A group of students and upcoming artists expressed their views about recent events through their paintings. Many paintings that were critical of the unfolding political events were done using dark colors that expressed pessimism. Every so often, announcements were made about political meetings and debates, and national songs were played. In a symbolic gesture before the holidays, especially Christmas, a papier-mâché tree was erected near the presidential statue in Riyadh al-Sul, representing a Christmas tree. Poems and slogans that were hung as ornaments on the tree referred to the corruption of the government and the stealing of public monies, such as naval properties, the Solidaire Company, and expatriate funds. In addition, there was a note hung to remind people that the national debt has exceeded $40 billion.
At this hour, the Labor Party Central Committee is convening for a session that could decide the political future of party chairman, Defense Minister Amir Peretz. Joining me now from our Tel Aviv studio, IBA's diplomatic correspondent, Leah Zinder. Leah, welcome.
Thank you, Yochanan.
Why is this Central Committee meeting so crucial?
Well, for the very reason you give, Yochanan, it's all about the primaries. Amir Peretz's political career, no less, hangs in the balance. According to Labour Party rules, if the party fails to win an election, primaries must be held within 14 months after the election to vote in a new leader. Now, those primaries were scheduled for this coming May. Peretz's rivals are insisting on that date or even as early as this March. But Peretz is trying desperately to postpone them at least until the end of next year. His popularity, both within his own party and in the population at large, is near rock bottom, and Peretz feels that with the Lebanon war behind him, he has a chance of rebuilding his battered image. But last night, Peretz's supporters in Labour tried and failed to postpone tonight's Central Committee meeting, which is convening to approve the date for the primaries. Senior sources in Labour told me just a short time ago there does appear to be a majority for primaries at the end of May, but a small victory for Peretz. The party's census will go on until March, and that will give him time to try to recruit more of his supporters into the party. So there will be a secret ballot tonight, results in the early hours of tomorrow morning, Yochanan.
Leah, who is Amir Peretz's most serious rival for leadership of the Labour Party?
Well, it's getting very interesting in Labour, Yochanan. A brand new poll, in fact, just published, which was commissioned by KillingsAl Israel Radio, shows that if the primaries were held today, the winner would be Ami Ayalon, with 26% of the vote, followed by Ophir Pines, 19%, and coming in third with just 16%, Amir Peretz. By the way, Ehud Barak, once the great white hope of Labour, is in fourth place with just 14%. Now, in a standoff between Ayalon and Peretz, Ayalon wins hands down in the poll with 63% to just 24% for Amir Peretz. So Ami Ayalon, a strong advocate of peace, who's also a decorated war hero, former commander of the Navy and former head of the Shin Bet, the GSS, has now formed an alliance with Ophir Pines. They're challenging Peretz, and they're certainly the greatest threat to his future as party leader, Yochanan.
The Egyptian authorities accused the Muslim Brotherhood movement of violence. They arrested dozens of students affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood after engaging in a militia-like demonstration at Al-Azhar Islamic University last Sunday. Al-Arabiya correspondent said that the Egyptian police arrested the Muslim Brotherhood's Deputy Secretary General Muhammad Khairat al-Shatir along with about 200 students in a raid on one of the university's dormitories. Muhammad al-Zahar has the details.
According to Egyptian security sources, 140 students belonging to the Muslim Brotherhood were arrested, along with Deputy Secretary General Khairat al-Shatir. The arrests, according to an Egyptian Interior Ministry report, came after authorities received information that the Muslim Brotherhood was recruiting groups of students and calling them the defense teams. They were trained in warfare tactics and provided with sticks to begin a series of sit-ins and demonstrations to create disturbances on campus, block street traffic, and vandalize public and private property. Following the arrests, the Brotherhood released a report saying that these were isolated incidents created by the students on their own volition.
What the Azhar students did on campus was a mistake, and we told them that. It was irresponsible.
The arrest came a few days after a group of Azhar students staged a protest as a show of strength, demonstrating their fighting abilities. They were protesting a decision to expel some students who participated in unauthorized student elections. The authorities' response came after a large media campaign was created over several days, in which many Egyptian newspapers of different affiliations warned of the Brotherhood's threat.
وكان التحذير من التلويح بالقدرات القتالية لجماعة الإخوان قاسما مشتركا أعظم. تلقينا عشرات من الإيميلات وعشرات من الفاكسات.
We received tons of emails and faxes and hundreds of phone calls expressing genuine fear after what the public saw and heard at Al-Azhar University. We are not an occupied country. We don't need the Brotherhood to organize an army like the Mahdi in Iraq or Hamas in Palestine. We are not a sectarian country. We don't need militia demonstrations.
This show of strength by the Muslim Brotherhood students at Al-Azhar University was seen by security forces as an illegal demonstration and by the Egyptian public as a threat. At the same time, the Brotherhood claims it was an unintentional mistake. In the midst of all these views, the battle between the Muslim Brotherhood and the Egyptian regime enters a new stage. Mohammed Salah Al-Zahar, Al-Arabiya, Cairo.
Iranians go to the polls on Friday to pick the new members of the Assembly of Experts and vote in the village, town, and city council elections. Major political parties have fielded their candidates for both elections. The ballots are expected to be marked by a huge voter turnout. According to Interior Ministry official, 131,000 ballot boxes will be set up for the voting across the country. 164 candidates are vying for Assembly of Experts, while 114,000 for the village and city councils. Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad says the dual elections due to be held in Iran nationwide on Friday are very important.
بیش از 27 انتخاب سراسری رو مردم ما با
President Ahmadinejad said Iranians will go to the polls on Friday to pick the new members of the Assembly of Experts and cast their ballots in the village, town, and city council elections to once again display their grandeur. He said the Iranian nation really deserves to be the flag bearer of justice, monotheism, and spiritual elevation for the human community. The president underlined elections are of the essence as Iranians have participated in nationwide polls over the past 27 years with awareness. Ahmadinejad reiterated elections are a manifestation of national will and are a forum where people have their say to form the pillars of the government.
President Ahmadinejad told the Jewish rabbis participating in international conference on the Holocaust Thursday, non-compliance by the Zionist regime and Western powers with religious principles is the root cause of violence and bloodshed which have swept across the world, claiming the lives of innocent civilians. He then asked for the presentation of a united front of followers of the divine faiths to prevent crimes against humanity committed by Tel Aviv. The rabbis in turn thanked the courageous stance of the Iranian president on the Holocaust, saying the Jews condemned the Israeli aggression in different parts of the world, especially in Palestine. Visiting Iranian Foreign Minister Manouchehr Mottaki told Speaker of Kazakhstan's lower house of parliament Orol Makhmadjanov on Thursday the unstable situation in Iraq, Palestine, and Lebanon requires due attention on the part of all countries around the world. Mottaki also discussed bilateral economic ties, saying the volume of trade transactions is projected to hit the $2.5 billion mark in 2007. Earlier in the day, Tehran and Astana sealed a memorandum of understanding at the close of the 8th meeting of Iran-Kazakhstan Joint Economic Cooperation Commission. The document signed by Iran's Mottaki and Kazakh Minister of Transportation Serik Akhmedov envisages formation of a joint commercial council and issuance of up to 2,500 trade transport permits each year. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesman Mohammad Ali Hosseini has called on the Court of First Instance, Europe's second highest court, to reverse its preliminary ruling, which allows the MKO terrorist grouping's frozen assets to be released. Hosseini underlined to unfreeze terrorist assets would revive and encourage terrorism and runs counter to the European Union's duties in the war on terror. The Foreign Ministry spokesman referred to the crimes against humanity committed by the MKO, including the killing of Iranian and Iraqi people, saying it is regarded as a terrorist grouping in international circles as well as in most European and non-European countries. He demanded the EU discharge its responsibilities in that connection.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/Mosaic for more information about these broadcasters or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Feyerdahl Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. If you value this program, please send your tax-deductible contribution to Link TV, either through the website or the mailing address listed on your screen. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs which connect you to the world.